All right. We were supposed to have Brian Larson's, but I think we got the A team instead. Don't tell Brian I said that. Lions, huh? You agree? Lions Meadows of Hope is a foster care system that started many years ago. And today we have the Director of Foster Care, Jamie Richardson, and the Director of Development, Elizabeth Beck. They are two outstanding individuals I have learned in the short time I have known them, and I'm trying to encourage them to join Rotary because I think they'd fit in great. But I'm going to let them tell you about their program. I'm just excited they're here to talk to us today.
I think we're mic'd. Yeah, I think we're mic'd. I think we're mic'd. Can everybody hear us or hear me?
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
I think you're going to have to
Yeah, stay away from me.
I don't want you to introduce yourself as me today. Oh, gosh. Well, thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here to speak. A little bit about me, Elizabeth Beck. I've been in Stillwater 14 years. I have a 29-year-old daughter, Shelby, who lives with her husband in Edmond and their two little ones, Caroline and Crew, and so I'm officially a Momo, and it's my favorite thing. And then I have a 13-year-old, Kate, that is going to be in 9th grade here in Stillwater. She is a crazy athlete. I chase her all over town and other towns and other states playing softball and tennis, and she is a teenager, and it's really fun. So, like I said, I've been here 14 years. I was a CASA volunteer for 10 years here in Stillwater, and that's really where I became passionate about foster care. I served 4 kiddos during those 10 years, 4 different cases, still involved with some of the kiddos. The greatest accomplishment, I think, is the second kiddo I served. She was 14. She lived at the local shelter here for 2 years, and she is now at OSU. She's 22 years old. She's successful. She graduated from high school in Morrison, and she really is a delight in our community. She is giving back to the community and works for Ed Gallegos and is just really a joy. So anyway, that's where I fell in love with foster care. And during that time at the shelter, when I was seeing my kiddos, a little boy, he was 9, decided it would be a great idea to jump in my lap. And his words to me was, "I want you to be my mom." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, great. What do I do now?" And so I just said, "Tell me where you live, tell me a little bit about you." And he went to school with my daughter, and he said, "Oh, I know who you are. I see you at school all the time." And I said, "Oh, you do?" And he said, "Yeah, I know your daughter, Kate." And I said, "That's great." He was from Tulsa, and he was at the shelter because there weren't any foster homes in Tulsa that would take him. And so he ended up in our shelter here in Stillwater, went to Sanger Elementary, and that introduction was in March. And by May, he was living at my house, and I was fostering him. So he was 9. He's 15 now. He went back home right before school started his 4th grade, and he lives in Florida with his paternal grandmother and is doing well. And he came up a couple of years ago and spent the weekend here, and or 2.5 weeks here, I should say, and did all the things he loved, the OSU baseball camp and Life Church at the movies. And so anyway, my heart bleeds for foster kids in our community. I'm the Director of Development, so I'm the one that has to ask for money. I'm the one that puts on events. We're getting ready to have a huge golf tournament on Monday. We sold out really quickly. Still have sponsorships available until Monday if you guys want to do that. But I think that the history of who we are really speaks for itself. We've been around since 1938. The original homestead is still on Highway 177 and 750 Road. If you're headed to Shawnee on 177, you'll see the old white homestead. It's still there. If you just turn down that road, that's where our foster care campus is located. We have 5 homes on our campus. And if a family will agree to foster 3 or more children, 3 or more? 4 or more?
4 or more children.
4 or more now. They can live on our campus for free. And so it's a campus, it's a home community. And we did a capital campaign years ago and raised $1 million and built 4 homes. And then we have another home that was there before that. And so our homes are always full. There are always families in our community that are saying yes. And part of the reason that we want families to say yes to foster care and live on our campus is our mission is to keep siblings together. What we know and what statistics tell us is that outcomes for children that come into care that are separated from their siblings, they're not good. You can imagine you've been taken away from your family. Many times, like I was telling you about the little guy I fostered, he wasn't in his community because there wasn't enough families to say yes. And so they come into care and they move, and then they also don't have contact with their siblings. It's tough. And in those communities, that's where their support is. That's where their schools are. And we all know the teachers, they are the people that support these kids day in and day out. The coaches, the churches, the youth directors, the youth leaders, all those things. And so anyway, having them on our campus and having families say yes to sibling sets is a huge priority for our agency. And then we have other homes just within our communities, and Perry and Jamie will talk more about the foster care side of things, but we serve a lot of kiddos because we are in lots of different communities. And so we just finished a capital campaign, I guess it was almost a year and a half ago now, for a family center. And we are getting ready to open this. It's completely finished on the inside, and it sits right by our foster homes on our campus. And this facility will serve as a gathering place for our families. And so, as you can imagine, when you say yes to 4 children, and you already have 4 children, then you've just multiplied your family. And having birthday parties are crazy, and having movie nights are crazy. And the other thing we know is that when people say yes to foster care, it's really lonely. And you kind of see people that you thought maybe were in your life step out for a moment, because typically children that come into care have a very large bit of trauma. They've seen a lot in their young age, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's just sheer neglect, whether it's drugs, no matter what it is, they've seen more than they need to see at a young age. And so sometimes people back away when you say yes to hard things. And so having a community, having people that can just look at you and go, yeah, I get it. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to have that. And so the Family Center will be that resource for our families. And they'll be able to come and they can not rent it, but they can reserve it. Our families don't pay anything for it. They can reserve our Family Center. They can have birthday parties. They can have movie nights. They can have club meetings for whatever club that their children are in. Our hope is, as we get it up and running, we'll have tutoring out there for our kiddos that might need some help in school. We'll have counseling services. We're not accredited right now, but that's the next step for our agency. And with accreditation becomes counseling. And the mental health crisis is crazy. And it takes a long time for kiddos in care to get the help that they need. And many times they can't wait. They can't be on a waiting list and wait 3 months to check their meds and 3 months to see a counselor after what they've been through. So we're really excited to get that up and running. And that's going to be the next phase.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the homes really quick too? Like where we're located and...
Well, I think you said, we're located past Venco, which I don't know if you guys know about the Boys Ranch at all, but we used to have the homesteads out there where they used to house just boys traditionally back in the day. But now, since 2015, we transitioned to foster care, so now we can have boys and girls, and we help 0 to 18, which was a really good blessing for us. We currently have 24 homes, and we serve 35 kids. We are trying to expand to the Garfield County area, and where else? Lincoln, Noble County. So we are busy. Me and my staff are currently trying to recruit new homes, support new homes. What else? I don't even know.
Well, and I think one of the things that we talk about is a lot with our community is the need and why we have to have more homes in these communities. And we were just speaking in Perry not too long ago, and how many kids are in Perry that don't have, we don't have any homes in Perry right now.
Not right now.
Right now. We had somebody that was fostering in Perry and their home is closed, and a lot of times that happens. So parents will say yes to foster care, they will foster, and then whatever will happen, they'll adopt, they'll go home. So reunification is always the goal with foster care. We always want to get kids back to their bio parents if at all possible. It's not always possible, and sometimes kiddos come into care and rights are already terminated or rights are terminated immediately, and it's hard when that happens. But what we know, and statistics show it, and kids' behaviors show it, and we could go on and tell you so many stories about that. But it's really important for our foster families to bridge with the bio families. And that's really the best of both worlds for the kiddos, because they really want a support network and they want to be with their parents if at all possible. That connection is strong, and we have the greatest foster parents in our agency that say yes to not only fostering, but yes to the parents. Because again, what we know is that the kids come from abuse and neglect, but their parents came from abuse and neglect. It's generational. And if you can't heal the bio parent and stop the cycle, then these kids will continue the cycle most of the time. And by no fault of their own, it's just what they know. And so we do have some really great parents that bond and bridge, and the connection is really great. And so some of the kids even get adopted, and the bio parent and the foster parent are still really tied together. And we have, lots of stories about that. And do you want to talk about the 4 boys that were adopted out on campus?
Okay. I was going to share that story, but
you don't have to. It's a great one.
We did have a family. They only wanted, when they first started their journey, they were a brand new couple. They didn't have any biological kids of their own. And they were like, well, let's step into foster care. And they stepped into foster care, taking in one boy. Well, that boy, he had siblings that were split up into the system, unfortunately. The family didn't have a house big enough, and so they came to us and they said, we want to get these siblings together, and we would like to eventually adopt the siblings, which there was 4 of them. So they moved to our campus. They took in all the boys, and I'm trying to think, when did they adopt? They adopted last year.
Mm-hmm. It's been
Yeah.
a year.
So we had 5 kids adopted last year altogether. So it was really a great story, and that family is really a good family for us.
It is. And they get to live on our campus. And so once they adopt, they can live on our campus for a year after the adoption is final. And that gives them some opportunity to just settle in and make some decisions that they need to make. And one of the things we talk about a lot with our community is that everybody thinks adoptions are really great. And it is. And we're at the courthouse, and we're excited, and the judge is excited, and the attorneys are excited, and the families are excited. But the truth of it is, it's a really hard day for the kids. It says my family's broken, and my family's not going to ever be the same. And so we want to really take care of the kids and their hearts, and we want to give them the tools that they need to be successful in that journey, because that journey will be difficult. If it's not already, if they're young, and that's another something that people just don't understand, is they're like, oh, I want a baby, because babies don't have any trauma. Babies won't get kicked out of daycare, and I won't get called. Yeah, actually there is a lot of trauma with the baby, because really the abuse and neglect happens when the child is in the womb. And a lot of times we don't see that behavior come out until a lot later. And so we spend a lot of times people ask us, what's the difference between DHS and an agency? Why should I go with an agency? Why don't I just foster through DHS? So do you want to talk about just the DHS, how that process works?
So currently you can go 2 separate routes. You can go through DHS, which is straight DHS. You're going to have a DHS worker, or you can do a private agency. And there's about, I'm going to say 20 private agencies here in the state of Oklahoma. What makes private agencies unique is that we stay with the families, where DHS workers, they stay with the kids. So we support the homes, and we're going to be there at 2 a.m. when the foster kids having a meltdown. We're going to be giving you a hot meal. Sometimes foster parents will cuss at us and just be really upset, but my staff will just sit there with them and take it and let them vent, because that's what they need. And we'll be like, here's a pizza. We're going to sit with you in this hardness. So I think that's the difference.
Well, and I think too, what happens when you have an agency, you have somebody that's behind you. And we also know that disruptions, which is what happens when foster parents are tired, it's easy to say, just send them back. Just send them back. I can't deal with it anymore. It's hard. And that does happen sometimes, unless you have an agency behind you that says, I can offer you respite. I can bring you a meal. There was a time that we had a family that adopted or fostered 2 little girls. It was a really hard morning. Parents had to go to work. And one of our workers was called. He was their worker, and he said, "I'm on my way." He drove out to the family's house, and he sat with the young girl while the parents went to work, because at this point he had been in those kids' lives. Those girls trusted him. He was TBRI certified, which is a trust-based relational
intervention. And so that just means myself and one of my staff members were both TBI practitioners. And so we go and we try to help families understand the trauma just a little bit more in depth and try to give them tools and that help them deal with kids from trauma or deal with kids from hard places, because traditional parenting does not work with kids from hard trauma.
And so I think that's part of the difference. And so that's really what sets us apart. And DHS does a great job. We are a licensed agency, so we contract with DHS. DHS will always place the children. They place the children in different agencies throughout Oklahoma. So we don't have anything to do with the adoption. We don't have anything to do with that. So Jamie and her staff, every day at 2:30, they sit on a phone call. It's called All Hands on Deck, AHOD. Yeah, and every day at 2:30, there's somebody on the call from our agency and from all the agencies in Oklahoma, and our workers sit and listen to all of the kids that need placement in our state.
Well, not just need placement, it's kids that are currently sitting in offices. And
Yep.
so typically, the average that we talk about each day at 2:30 is going to be roughly between 12 and 19 kids that we staff that are just sitting in offices that don't have a place to go. Shelters are full, families won't take them.
Some kinship.
Some kinship, they're sitting there. They don't have a place. The other 100 emails that we get daily are just kids that are needing placement. Some are new removals. Some are the families are leaving out of state and they need a place because the family can't take them with them out of state. And so we go through about 100 emails a day about kids needing placement.
So that's why when we talk a lot about how you don't have to say yes to foster care to say yes to a foster child. And there's so many different ways in our community that we can say yes to a foster child. And it's everything from, could you help with some school supplies? The kids that come into care, so many times they are digging through a trash bag, right? They leave their home in the middle of the night sometimes with whatever's on their back. Maybe a lovey, maybe a stuffed animal, depending what time, what age they are. But it's really tough. I know just the teenagers that I was a CASA for, that's a really hard time of life. And digging through a trash bag you don't have any dignity with that. And they don't want to do that. And they want to go to school with the school supplies that they got to pick out at Staples or they got to pick out at Walmart. And so there's just little things that, when we do a school supply drive, it's not because our foster parents can't afford school supplies. It's not that. It's just that these are all the ways that our community can say yes to the foster children that are right here in our community. And I just want to talk about our story, Shane, if I can, just really quick. I said yes to the little guy when he was 9. I said yes to him in May. I got a phone call at 10 in the morning that said he blew placement. He's no longer welcome at our shelter. He had some behaviors, and he was no longer welcome there. And I was on my way to Oklahoma City, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I want to do right now. I'm not a foster parent. I haven't been through foster parent training. I don't know. I just love him, and he doesn't need to go inpatient. He doesn't need that. He needs the love of a family." And so they said, "Well, we don't have any choice. He's leaving at 3:00. And I said, "I'll be there. Don't put his stuff in a trash bag, but I'll be there, and I'll figure it out. I'll say yes now, and I'll just figure it out later." And one of the things I had to figure out was, what do I do? It's summer. He doesn't have a school to go to. He has so much trauma. He is so medicated. He doesn't even know what day it is half the time. And the Y stepped up. They had a summer program, and Shane, we were just talking about that when he came in, that, summer programs are full in our community by then. Everybody's already got their kids in programs, and But what about the kids that have to have a place to go? What do we do with those kids in our community that have to have a place to go? You know, my 9-year-old at the time, she could hang out and she could go back and forth to the CASA office with me, or she could, you know, I didn't work at Lions Meadows of Hope at the time, and I owned my own business, and so that was not a problem. But he can't do that. He has to have some structure. So Shane and his staff, they figured it out. And with a couple of the board members at the Y, he was able to go to the day camp, and he met some of the greatest people that summer that really impacted his life, and who he is today, he remembers that. And when he came to see me a few years ago, he said, "Mom, I remember this, and I remember this, and I remember this." And so I tell you that because it takes every one of us to say yes to a foster child in our community. You don't have to foster them. They don't have to live in your house. We would love that. We would love more foster homes in our community, so the kids that come into care in our community get to stay here. They get to stay in their schools. They get to stay in their communities. But if we can't do that, there's a million different ways that we can say yes to the kids that are in our community day in and day out. And they are the same kids that go to the Y Day camp. You don't know they're different. You don't know their story. They sit in church. They sit in youth groups with our kids. They're on our kids' soccer teams and softball teams, and they're right in the same schools. And so I think a lot of times what we really hope for is that we live in a community that we're all in, like everybody's all in, and together we can. And we see that over and over in different capacities in our community. And so I think that's the one thing that we're really thankful for, is the small community that just gathers together. But I just always want to tell people that you don't know what these kids have gone through, and that we feel so lucky, we feel so blessed that we get to go to work every day and do hard things. And so when we say, we need you guys to help us do hard things, we know what those hard things are. We know we're asking whether it's, can you write us a check? Can you buy some school supplies? Can you tutor a child? Those are all really, really hard things.
Or my favorite, and my family's favorites are frozen meals. If you guys ever want to give us some frozen meals, we love giving them out to our families.
We keep a freezer in our office just full of 9x13 frozen meals. And a lot of times kids come in the middle of the night. That's really normal for a kid to be removed in the middle of the night. Jamie and her staff are up all night long, and it's really great just to have a frozen meal that next day, and here, just feed your family.
We will also provide them with a hot meal, okay? But just to get them by in the next coming days, their whole life just got turned upside down. So we'll provide them with a frozen meal as well. Yeah. But we do take them a nice hot meal to get them started that first night.
Yeah. So the next phase, really quick, some exciting things. Am I good on time? Okay. We just moved into our brand new office, 623 Southwestern. It's on the corner of 6th and Western. Yes, 6th and Western. I had to think about that for just a second. And it used to be the old Oklahoma Ag Credit Building. And so we have transformed it. Our signs are up. It's fantastic. So we were down on Main Street in downtown. So we now have our brand new office. We've been in there about 4 weeks. It was a labor of love. We now know how to take wallpaper off and code base off, and we clicked our heels together, and it happened in about 6 weeks. So we were really thankful for that space. We all have doors and offices, and yeah, it's fantastic.
It's nice to get away from them.
Oh, really? And so anyway, we're in our office. We're getting ready to have a grand opening. We hope that everybody can come out and just kind of check it out. On our foster care campus, the next phase of our family center is a pavilion, a multi-purpose sports court, and an inclusive playground. And so we have a $100,000 matching grant that we were given. And so I am going to be raising some money in the next few months to finish that up. And it's going to be fantastic. And so again, what we know is our kids really need a place to play. And a lot of times when they're playing, they work through a lot of their trauma when they're playing. And so the pavilion will start first, and we do have the funding for that. And so we're getting ready to start that construction, and then the next thing will be a multi-purpose sports court and an inclusive playground. And the inclusive playground, we want it to be inclusive for many reasons. We want our community to realize that we don't ever know what kind of kids are going to come into care. And so if we have an inclusive playground and we have a child that comes to us in a wheelchair, or we have a child that comes with us with some sensory issues or autism or whatever, we're going to have a playground that includes them. And so we really want to have an inclusive playground. And so that's the next phase of what we are doing. Yeah. What else? Do you guys have questions? I don't know if I've covered. Yes?
Two-part question.
Okay.
Hold on. Two-part question. How do you vet potential foster families? What's the process and what do you look for, number one? Number two, what kind of support financially, besides just being able to live in the home, does a foster parent get to take care of these kids they're fostering?
That's a really great question. To be vetted as a foster parent, you have to be 21 years old, be able to pass a background check, be able to pass physical, because kids are going to be playing around, and get fingerprints. Really, those are the things. Now, there is a lot of forms that you will have to fill out along the way, but my staff and I, we take each form and we walk through it with you, because it is very overwhelming at times. There is also a process called a home study, which is a 2-day interview process, and we go out, we talk to the families, we get to know their story, their childhood, everything about their life, and then we go and we type it up into about a 30 to 35 page report. And then that's basically it. And then you sign contracts to become a foster parent. But the main things is being 21 and be able to pass a background check. And we do extensive background checks on each parent that we have. And then support-wise, it doesn't cost any money up front to become a foster parent. But once you become a foster parent, you are then contracted with the state, and you will get funding through the state. So that depends on if you take a child from 0 to 5 years old, that's roughly about $530 per month. And then it just increases. It slowly increases from there. So 6 to 12 and then 12 to 18, it will increase. We also, due to donors and funding, we also give initial placement stipend for our families when they first get that child in their home, because it is very expensive when they first come in. They're getting bedding, they're getting shoes, they're getting clothing, toothbrushes. So we try to help that. We also give our families $250 per year for extracurricular stuff, such as the Y Camp or baseball or football or whatever they want to use it for. So.
And we also, you'll see on your tables, we have what's called the Champion for Children card. We have a lot of our community members that do this for us every month, and it's a monthly, it just comes right out of your checking account, or you can send a check in or whatever. But this is really what helps serve our families. We talk about how our families are served well because our staff is paid well. We pay our staff well, and therefore they can serve the kids well. And so anyway, it's a Champion for Children. If you guys are interested, it's on your table. There's so many different ways. If you are on social media, we put a lot of our needs on social media and what we're doing and the events and how you can help and things like that. So we would love for you guys to follow us. Yeah.
What do you do with or tell an 18-year-old when on their 18th birthday?
That is a place our board would like to start jumping into. That's what the original Boys Ranch was supposed to do, was help that independent living child grow into an adult, right? We would love to get there again. Right now, there's not services set up for independent living through our agency, but DHS does have an independent living program that is beneficial for kids. But we currently do not, which is sad. But if they're in our program, most of the time that they will come back into, they'll check, like, I don't know what
You do sign yourself back in. Once you turn 18 and you age out of the system, you have an opportunity to sign yourself back in. You have 90 days to sign yourself back into care and get the benefits from DHS. And so a lot of kids do that. Some kids don't. Some kids at that point are like, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. I'm tired of this, and they go on their way. And then they realize it's a really hard, homelessness is real for our kids that age out at 18.
Do you have many 18-year-olds?
We do not. We currently have, I'm trying to think how many teenagers. I think we have about 5 teenagers in our program right now. We have some families looking for scholarships or anything like that to send them to Career Tech or VOTech or Job Corps down in Guthrie. But I think we have about 5. We have 5 teenagers.
Many years ago, when it first was the IOA Ranch, I understand they used to have cattle, horses, and things the kids take. Do they still have that down there?
Well, we used to have a
Animal husbandry program.
an animal husbandry program. Sadly, that takes a lot for somebody to run, and that's a volunteer position. We would love to get that started. That's what the campus was built for. We have space for an animal husbandry program. We just don't have anybody that wants to take that on. We know that is the best way for a child to get that therapeutic service is through animals, and so we highly encourage families to have animals.
We did meet with the Secretary of Agriculture. She came out to our campus and we went through our campus.
Yes.
and she is on board. And so it's in the process. We've had some people that have approached us about it, but it's not up and running yet. But we've had some great conversations.
Yes.
So Jeremiah, do you have a question?
So today, Thursday, June 22nd, I know that you guys said you need, of course, money to operate as well as foster families. What else, as of today, that somebody in the community, a business, an individual could provide for you in addition to potentially serving as a foster parent or providing cash donations?
Well, those are 2 really great things that we need all of the time.
Yeah,
But,
I like those.
I mean, just literally anything. We've had people have come up to us and said, we want to provide clothing. Can we do a clothing drive for your kids? And here's what I say, thank you so much. The kids want to go pick out their own clothes. And so what she did, she's 23 years old, she's one of our volunteers, and she collects gift cards to local businesses, Old Navy, in our community, and she delivers them. And we get them probably, 3 times a year, and then we're able to give those to our families, and they're able to take their kids to go shopping. So those kinds of things. Signing up to volunteer. We have foster parent trainings, and we need people to come hang out with our kiddos. So the foster parents can come in, have a training, have a meal, things like that. When we have events, we put a sign-up genius out there. Can you feed our families? Can you make a meal? Can you feed our families for that event? People to come and talk to our families. If you're, whether you're a CPA or a judge or an attorney or a DA or a banker or anything that our families would need, they really soak it up from the community. I think I'm out of time. Am I out of time? Okay. So, really, there's so many ways. And we have some information back on the back table, and we have a brochure that says, here's all of the ways that you can serve our kids and our families. So tons and tons of ways. Did you have one?
Yes, I actually have 2.
Okay.
So my first question would be,
Hang on, I'm coming. For the Zoom audience.
So my first question would be, what skills do you teach your young adults to prepare for the real world? I was up close and personal. I'm a Lincoln student, so I know what it's like to kind of be on your own and have to do everything by yourself. So I just kind of wanted to know what skills you taught for them and how would one go about going and spending time with the foster kids just to kind of talk to them, give them some company.
I think that would probably be going back to your question. That would be a great way to serve. That would be a great way to get involved. We currently don't have a program set up to do that, but I would love to sit down and talk with you if that's what you're interested in to get something like that. We have that family center out there. It has a full service kitchen, and so if you would ever want to just come and cook meals or teach kids how to cook, that would be the place to do it.
That would be really heartwarming.
And to your question too, a lot of our foster parents, as they are raising their children, they teach them a lot of life skills as well. And so we have some fantastic foster parents for sure. Yeah, you bet.
All right. Thank you.
I would like to do a stand-up collection for them real quick because their needs are real. I know a lot of us don't carry cash anymore, but I'll put in the first 40 and I'll walk around if we can do a stand-up collection, help them with some immediate needs now.